Right, hello and welcome. Welcome back to another Top Flight Talk. And this time I managed to finally get hold of MarkyB, famously of Infused, and has qualified for the CWL in the first set of qualifiers, which we did see him at LAN. So, first of all, Marky, how are you today?
I'm great. Obviously, that was a great introduction, mate.
Thank you very much. I practiced it.
Yeah, cheers. But yeah, I'm great. How about yourself? Have a good Christmas.
Yeah, it was a very good Christmas. Thank you very much. It was great, and it's obviously my holiday time has been made better by getting to speak to you.
Oh,
Uh,
that's beautiful.
well, that's all the niceness kind of out the way here. Let's talk about first of all, you got into the CWL. That's got to be a weight off your mind, although you were one of the favourites to go through.
Yeah, obviously we were favourites to go through. It was just, I mean, if we hadn't qualified, it would have been an absolute disaster, to be honest. But we qualified, and obviously we made it hard for ourselves. But we'll talk about that later. But yeah, a lot of weight off of our shoulders now. A lot of stress involved in that. We've been kind of relaxing, taking a bit of a breather. We've been still playing it. Obviously, the CWL's coming up, and that's the most important thing. We've still been trying to practice, but at the same time, try to take a breather, try to maybe just chill out and play COD with other people and just relax, I suppose.
Fair enough. Let's talk about you just spoke about practice there actually after the CWL. Let's talk about before the CWL. Now, your team had an advantage that no other team really had, is that you guys have been teaming for quite a while, at least comparatively to the other top squads in Europe. How did you kind of practice and approach the CWL qualifier, knowing that it was such a big deal?
Well, I mean, as soon as obviously our team started before the end of the game, at the end of Advanced Warfare, and going into this new game, I knew that I wanted to stick with this team just due to everyone having the right mentalities in terms of wanting to grind from the start of the new game. So that is exactly what we've done. We basically started grinding from day one, trying to play as much as possible. I think we pretty much played near enough every day, bar a couple of days here and there for other reasons. But personally, I was down to play every day. But
we know you are, Marky. We know you are.
Others on my team let me down. But yeah, we played pretty much every single day. I think we were probably one of the most practiced, if not, I would say I was Millennium, probably the two most practiced teams going into it. And well, I suppose it showed, but at the end of the day, I suppose we didn't look that great, but we qualified.
I think you look good enough. Let's talk about that then. Now, the first two maps you had against Epsilon were fairly impressive, and this has been something that people have been talking about here. Is that you seem to beat these top teams, or at least compare against them very well. Millennium comes to mind, and then somehow you just can't close it out. You just not got the legs for the long run. Is this just to do with the strength in Europe, or is it just something your team's working on? Is there a difference that we're not seeing?
I mean, I consider the Epsilon series a real anomaly, and I don't think if we were in that same situation again, we'd make the same mistakes and stuff like that. Millennium, personally, right now, I do believe they're slightly stronger than our team, and when it has came down to a lot, I think that when we've beaten Millennium twice in the winners bracket finals, and then we went on to lose both the series and the grand finals.
Yeah.
And in both those times, like the winners bracket finals brought to mind, Millennium have made massive mistakes, bigger mistakes than I'd say we've made in the grand finals. There was times that I don't know if you've seen many of the games at iSeries, but I think
I watched pretty much all of them.
We won 2 rounds on some of the S&Ds with ninja defuses and stuff. I think there was loads of stupid rounds, clutch rounds that they really made mistakes on. And I think that them making those mistakes in those games really gave them a kick up the behind and made sure they weren't making the same mistakes in the grand final, and just they simply outclassed us both times. I think saying that, I think we should have won Am to Pro. I think we had a very good chance, 5-3 up on the last map of the first series.
Yeah.
We ended up throwing that away. But iSeries, we got completely outclassed. I think they were the better team then. I think Am to Pro, with a bit more experience, maybe. I guess I don't really want to go into it, but we made a couple of mistakes in terms of just listening to each other, making the right calls and stuff like that. And I think that was what really cost us. But the team is still fairly inexperienced, and I do believe. Yeah,
that was going to be my next question, actually, Marky. Sorry to cut you off there. So this is part of your team, right? I'm comparing you to the other top squads in Europe, right? The other guys who kind of qualify straight away for the CWL in the same time you did. The names on your team, now there are two that stick out for me. Obviously, Marky and PD are fairly well known. You've kind of proven yourself internationally. It's Zero and Urban. Now, Zero and Urban, it seems fairly new players to come to the top in the last year or so. Now, people are asking whether or not that is playing a factor here. Now, not only that, but PD's a very quiet player. We know he is. Have you had any issues with that? Do you think it's maybe just the inexperience of being able to compete at this level over and over again that maybe is a slight difference that you think your team will get better with time?
Yeah, I think that's why we all know as individuals we're one of the top two teams, if not the best team individually, skill wise. That's what we believe anyway, and we just know that the little differences are just our decision making. Sometimes our communication, our communications is like our results really inconsistent. Sometimes we can have next level communication that is top notch and some of the best communication I've ever been involved in, and then sometimes it'll be the worst communication I've ever involved in. There's no consistency there, and we just need to. I'm trying to just ensure that my teammates are constantly just calling out everything and what they should be, and sometimes that slacks off a bit, especially in games that were sort of falling behind. But there's been games we've been like, for example, I think at Amateur Pro we were down by like 150 points against Millennium on Stronghold, and our communication stayed solid throughout that whole comeback. And I've tried to constantly use that as an example that if we ever go down in a game like 20 points, 30 points, 40 points, whatever, the only way you're going to give yourself an opportunity to make those comebacks is if you stay strong, your communication stays on point, and you continue to go hard. And that's what I've just been trying to use that as an example and make sure everyone continues to do that throughout a map until the very, very end, especially on hard point in this game with the way it works.
That's fair enough. Now, for me, that kind of speaks a lot about you and your kind of the way you approach things here. But your team also has something else no other team has, and that's a coach. Have you been working with a coach, and how does that dynamic work in your team as well? Because, and I'm gonna go on a limb and say this here is, for me, Dinges are very much of a hype coach, and I don't know whether that's what you guys need at the best of times. Like I said, some of your teams are very quiet. How's it kind of working with that dynamic?
I think that Dinge used to be like renowned as I'd never been coached by him before, so I really couldn't comment on what his coaching styles used to be like. I obviously had seen him and he seemed like a very hyped guy, but in game with us, he is hyped at times. If somebody does something good, he's going to let them know, but it's not all hype. It's not. He literally every time we scrim, he's in there watching us play. He's sort of noticed if we're talking about what we should do in a game, like in a scrim and stuff. And then see you sometimes when it goes into like a tournament match or a LAN, sometimes you like forget these little things, and he's there to remind us of those little things that we've talked about, like, oh Mark, make sure you go for that spawn there instead of just flooding the hill. Make sure you focus on getting like just little things, especially in hard point. Maybe noticing like players that slip through and stuff like that. He's been literally dedicating a lot into watching us play and trying to improve us, and it's helped a lot. He's there as like a sort of out of game guy. He really does understand the game at a very high level, so he's really good for having to sort of stop arguments as well, because he's been the guy that's been able to say, right, you made that mistake there, Mark, you made that mistake there, Petey. But sometimes when you're in the game, you don't realize you're making these little mistakes, and obviously he's invaluable.
Well, that's good. That's kind of good. I'll say at the moment you're the only kind of team that has one or has a dedicated one. Okay, Marky, I want to kind of focus on you now. We spoke about your team and your run up to CWL. So there are several storylines with you. You've had quite a storied career, in my opinion, and I bring these stories up time and time again, but I think it's worth talking about now. First of all, let's start in the not too distant past. AW. A lot of people thought you had a very rough year. I personally thought you actually performed very well, personally, in terms of the games I actually saw you in and the kills you were making. But that may just be me kind of watching you as an individual. But you seemed, like I said, AW seemed very rough for you, even though I thought you were performing well. You seemed to kind of bounce from team to team. How was that?
Personally, AW, I felt that it was probably my worst COD, but at the same time, I feel like at LAN, I think pretty much every single event, bar I'd say one, which was Gfinity summer, where I actually ended up making the team. Well, I didn't make it the team come top 4, but I got top 4 with a team that was not expected to. Yeah. So nonetheless, I still achieved a good result. It was by no means like me playing bad affected us to where we came last at the event. We ended up being the highest ranked EU team at that event. So I mean, nonetheless, I've consistently performed well at LANs. I think that what cost me a lot was my online performances with specific teams. The only team I really got two teams I got dropped from were TCM and Epsilon. Although I had been a part of other squads that had.
Well, like I said, I didn't say dropped. I said bounced. You seem to bounce a little bit around like, squads.
There was a couple of times where in Tommy's squad and with Urban and Alexei and stuff that those players left to join other teams. So I didn't get dropped necessarily. Technically, I was still part of the team that I was beforehand, but nonetheless, the the other players did leave the squad, so technically it's the same thing. But yeah, so I had a very rough year, like you said, but I didn't really think that. I thought I was really good on LAN. I always performed well, always played consistently, if not exceeding the expectations of a SMG player at times. I thought I consistently played well, but I just think that online performances are very important. And I'm not a bad online player at all. I've got a good connection. I think it was more of a mentality issue online. I think I started slacking off and not going as hard as I should have been. Yeah, if you'd watched my stream and stuff, you wouldn't have thought that in terms of like communication stuff. But I really wasn't. I didn't really have the same mentality in terms of just constantly wanting to go hard and making everyone play at their best. And I felt it really leaked into my gameplay, and I ended up playing quite rubbish online a lot of the time.
I think that's kind of fair enough. Just to kind of bring up one of the key things you actually said there was the dropping from TCM. Now, for me, that was actually really significant in the history of TCM because you were essentially the face man for what, almost 2 years, I want to say.
Yeah, it was 2 years I was in TCM.
You were kind of the face man, and that was a transition away from the MarkyB period, the era of MarkyB and TCM, where, admittedly, you got your first big shot, and that transitions into what we'll talk about in a second. And then obviously went into the American TCM, and now TCM no longer exists. How big of it was you to kind of go from a team where, like I said, you got your opportunity to come through and almost saved your career, into no longer, and then 2 years later you are a main face of European Call of Duty, and now you have all these options. How was that?
It was sort of strange, really, I suppose, because the TCM opportunity itself sort of came out of nowhere, I guess, because at that point in time I was I'd just failed to qualify for COD Champs on 2013 on Black Ops 2, and I'd lost the TCM several times in the qualifier. Not playing too great, to be honest, but they gave me an opportunity, and obviously it went well. Done well at our very first event. If not, we could have done better. We came second at G51. I think we could have won it. I think we actually choked the final, to be honest. But yeah, but I guess it was great how it sort of led into other opportunities, because after I left TCM, obviously everyone. Oh, sorry.
Well, that's a first.
But yeah, so but yeah, obviously it's sort of being in TCM when I was no longer part of that squad, it gave me a lot of people knew me from that period and trusted me as sort of leader figure, and that ended up leading me into the likes of Millennium and stuff, and making teams for those orgs. So it was good, obviously. To that whole experience at TCM was great.
One of the other things, like I said, I've spoken about this multiple times. Whenever people speak about you as a player, I remember back in the day with iSeries, I remember sitting with you, and you were very close to quitting. It was the days of you coming top 32, top 24. You were determined that all the effort you were putting in just wasn't come to fruition, and eventually it did. Like I said, that into TCM suddenly propelled you to the forefront of Call of Duty. What would you say to people out there who are in a similar situation and just don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, or have constantly been placing this low level, and would you tell them to stick in it? How is it? How did you get past it?
Yeah, personally, I believe that at that point in time that I was as skilled, if not more skilled, than I am now. But I think that through time, for me continuing to get on with it and continue to put in a lot of effort, I gained that experience. So I think that's the most important thing in terms of getting victories in Call of Duty. So, I mean, at that particular time that you were talking about, I remember it pretty vividly. It was around I-47, I think. My team was literally smacking everyone online, and they may end up coming top 8 at LAN. And at that time, I think that was one of my best individual events. Obviously, there probably wasn't much on stream or anything. You wouldn't be able to really go back and watch that. But I played really well at that event, and I was really, really mad at myself. But at the same time, I didn't realise that. I think that I've realised this more recently, like as the years have gone on. The importance of experience and stuff. There's teams out there now that are probably in the same boat as me. Like, they've been playing really well online, and then at LAN they've just not been doing as good. But I don't really consider that down to them being sort of worse players individually at LAN. It's just at LAN it's just a very different environment. You need to be very strong mentally. Obviously there's a lot on the line. Not only is there money on more money than there is online on the line, but there's also just recognition from your peers and stuff, which is actually pretty. There's a lot of pressure there. If you don't achieve what you've been doing online on LAN, then
you get ripped a little bit.
You get a lot of stick, and that's a lot of pressure, believe it or not. You really need to be mentally stable and strong and able to handle that and know that not even you shouldn't even be thinking about that sort of stuff, to be honest. It's just be getting the job done, playing, and I think that came with time, to be honest. So that's what I'd say. Just try and grind it out. The experience will come. You're only going to get better the more events you've been to. I mean, I don't know how many events I've been to now, but that's always been something I've been trying to do throughout the years. Go to as many events as possible, gain as much experience.
Get that veteran status.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of veteran status, and kind of what you touched on there, pressure at LAN and stuff. Now, you are what is widely recognised as a veteran now of events everywhere. You've played on the biggest stages. You've played, in the biggest tournaments in the world. For players who haven't experienced that and haven't set that level, including your teammates who are just kind of now starting to get that, that experience, how do you kind of explain that to players? How do you prepare for it as well? Because there's a difference between playing, where you are now at home and just playing in your own comfort zone to playing on a stage, and there may be, thousands of people in the audience and hundreds of thousands of people watching at home. What's the difference going into that?
Well, I think there's obviously a massive difference. I think that the way I try and lead a team as well is I'm trying to make everyone focus on the game rather than the external factors, the crowd, stuff like that. And that really transitions into LAN. I have a lot of little things, just try and get the whole team focused on just the game, just thinking about the game, nothing else. And I think that, obviously, like you said, I have fairly inexperienced players in my team. Zero is particularly only been playing for I think he only started playing competitively on Advanced Warfare. Yeah, it was Advanced Warfare. He first started playing competitively, so he's still fairly new compared to someone like myself, who I guess I've been playing the likes of GB and stuff since Call of Duty 4, so that's 8 years at this point. So he's very and going from playing things like pubs and a very low level of competitive to now going to massive events is obviously a drastic change, and I've been just trying to give him all these little bits of advice, him in particular, but he catches on very fast. I think Zero has a big future in Call of Duty. I think he is going to be one of the best, if not the best, in the future.
I actually agree. That's something we definitely agree on.
Yeah, I think that individually I'd say he's in the same level as players like Jerd, Madcat. Honestly,
that's impressive. That's a high compliment, in fairness.
I just think the only thing that's really making him behind those players is things of his experience, but
decision making under pressure, right?
Yeah, saying that he's catching on very well in terms. He's by no means an absolute wreck. He's still a very confident guy, and he makes the right decisions at big moments. He made loads of big plays at every event that I've played him at, and he does by no means crumble under pressure.
But it's just that consistent decision making under pressure that comes.
I think that he's only going to get better and better and better, and like I said, put him up there with one of the best players in the game. So,
well,
hopefully he doesn't hear this, because it'll fuel his ego. Oh, I've not actually said that, so hopefully.
Well, since we talked about Zero, let's talk about your other teammates. Let's talk about Urban and Petey. Now, I think the reason we have to speak about these players is because your team, is sticking together and has stuck together. So what do you think about your other teammates then, and why does your team consistently kind of stay together longer than, some other teams might?
I think we're all pretty loyal guys. We don't really see the need in making team changes. I think that a lot of people make team changes because they look at the other teams and think what the pros are. Don't think of the cons of other team with other people, and I think that's something that really, if you see there's specific players, I'm not going to name any names, but a lot, and then they'll join that team and they realize, oh, maybe I should have done this. But that's what our team's really. Well, I suppose we won't really talked about that much, but we've been trying to just think about the pros and cons. And obviously, my team's fallen behind a couple of events. We came second a couple of times. We should have came first. But nonetheless, we all know that it's not our individual skill and stuff. It's just little things that's the difference. And I think that we're all just pretty focused on improving those little things. And but like I said, basically put it down to our loyalty to each other, and we're all good friends in and out of game. We all get on. I've been in teams that have literally played at events and then hardly talk to each other afterwards, whereas we're all pretty much a close unit. Dinge also helps with that. He brings everyone together, I guess, keeps everyone in good moods. And so I guess it's just our friendship, and and that. And saying that, going off on another little thing. Sometimes being really good friends with your teammates is a bad thing. It does, and I'm not gonna lie, that does affect our team sometimes because when you first become a team, you're like you try to be nice to each other all the time, and you don't really cross the line. Whereas when you've been a team for a long time and you're friends with everyone, then you start sometimes crossing that boundary and that line that you really shouldn't, and you start to piss each other off at times. It's sort of like actual real life friendship works. So I guess that's been creeping into it a bit. Like sometimes we're playing online, someone will say something that it really shouldn't have said. It really should have stayed inside, and then it'll lead someone off. Me in particular, I'm usually the victim of a good troll. But that's all I've really got to say about that.
All right, let's quickly touch on your other teammates then, Urban and PT. Now, PT you've definitely played with before, so let's kind of jump on with him first. How do you think he's fitting into your team dynamic?
Really good that he's a very selfless player. He'll just constantly play for the win. A lot of people used to associate him as like a bit of a kill whore, and on previous titles, like I remember when I teamed with him originally on Modern Warfare 3, he loved kills. And I mean, he still does love kills if the kills present themselves, but he's very much got a selfless mentality now, and he'll constantly play for the objective for the win.
Yeah.
He would never make any stupid decisions to try and go for kills over getting an objective or whatnot. So, and also he's improved massively in his communication. That was literally the reason we dropped him from TCM back in the day. His communication.
Yeah, I remember talking with you about that. Yeah, it was you just couldn't get him to communicate the way you guys wanted to, right?
Yeah, individually he was the best in our team, hands down, at that point in TCM on Ghosts. But he, like I said, like we would miss out little things that would end up. It would start to frustrate us more and more. We'd miss like a little call out because he wouldn't call something out, and it just started to frustrate us, and that end up on us dropping him, which was probably a bad decision regardless. Now that with hindsight, I think that it was a bad decision regardless. But nonetheless, I think we were just all a bit frustrated with the whole thing, and I think like in Call of Duty, the more people playing bad isn't as frustrating as other things. Like, so you'd think that like your teammate consistently playing bad would be annoying, but for me, if a teammate is consistently putting in 100% effort, consistently communicating at a high level, and being in a good mood, not bringing everyone down, etc.
Yeah,
I would rather they went double negative every game than not do those things. To be honest, because it starts to frustrate. Like when it starts affecting other teammates' gameplay because you're not doing things that you should be doing, like communicating. If you don't communicate something, then your teammate could die because of it. But if you're playing bad and still going 100%, it's not going to affect your teammates' gameplay as such. So
no, I agree. It's that thing about when people don't come on to practice, they're not just affecting their own practice, they're affecting the rest of the teams because that team can't play around them and kind of learn that chemistry.
Exactly.
Let's talk about Urban very quickly then. For me, one of the main stories I've heard about Urban was actually not that recent ago, and I think it's kind of one of the things that sticks in my memory, is that he unfortunately was the victim of a small prank and didn't sleep at all before Championship Sunday, which I found quite funny, but you ended up winning that event anyway. So tell me more about Urban.
Okay, well, Urban's a very well-spoken, cheeky person. That's how I describe him. He's a very intellectual person, but at the same time, very quiet if you don't know him, but very outspoken if you do know him. So he's changed a lot since I've started teaming with him. Originally, when I first teamed with him back on Advanced Warfare, he was pretty quiet. I mean, if you knew him, like he was teammates for Alexei for a very long time, he would talk to Alexei like a piece of shit. But me, because I was new to team with him, he was like the best teammate ever. And that's basically what he's like. He's a very outspoken guy, and he's a massive troll, which is actually something he's been trying to cut that out because that can frustrate the other the teammates. But one of the best individual players I've played with, alongside Zero. Can do anything, but that's one thing about our team. We're all pretty versatile. We can all AR, we can all SMG. That goes for Urban. He can do whatever. He's also a mate. Probably, I would say the best player. I mean, that's a bold statement. I've not really seen many American players, but I'd probably say he's the best with a pistol. And
apart from when he pushes hardware on an S&D, right?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, a couple of decisions. one of the little things, do you know what I mean, we're trying to work on, just communication, particularly in S&D, just calling out what we're doing and stuff. I sometimes don't do it myself. So, but yeah, that was one of those little errors we made that ended up costing us, but nonetheless, we move on.
Awesome. Well, Marky, thank you kind of so much for joining me here and giving up your time. I'm sure you're now going to go scrim for the next 24 hours. First of all, where can people find you? Where's the best place to kind of find you? I'll make sure that I stick all of this in the description below this video.
All right, just follow me on Twitter. Well, actually, no. What are you gonna say about Twitter?
You're not gonna say Twitter. I'll put the Twitter in the description anyway.
It's MarkyB Cod. I really appreciate if you follow my Instagram, because that's what I'm trying to. Because I actually had my Instagram deleted. So Instagram.com/Mark_Bryceland. And as always, check out my stream at www.twitch.tv/TheMarkyB. And I mean, there's a couple of things, but none of them really matter. That's the main things. So
fair enough. Okay. Any particular shout outs you wanna do?
Shout out to Infused. Shout out to the contained support from those guys. Andy, Ollie, who's sometimes involved, and all the other guys behind Infused. Adam. Some of you might not know him. He's probably watching this. And all my teammates, of course, Dinge as well, for being a great coach and continue to put a lot of effort in, more than any other sort of support staff member of any other Call of Duty team. Honestly, I believe he's the most dedicated in terms of trying to improve the team. So shout out to him. So yeah, shout out to my teammates, shout out to Dinge, shout out to all the people I've said, and shout out to you, Alan, for I've called you Alan. I know you don't like being called Alan. Bryce, Shout out to Bryce for this interview. Obviously, we've been trying to do this for a while, and we've eventually got to do it. So hopefully you enjoy Bryce's content. Continue to watch. Hit the like button.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Marky. Yeah, I appreciate getting you on. You're definitely one of my favourite COD players to speak to. So, guys, if you have watched this, thank you very much. If you're all joined us all the way to the end, make sure you subscribe, comment. Who else do you want to see me kind of do this with? I'm going to try and catch someone from Epsilon as well. So I was going to do all the 4 of those teams, but I will be keeping up with these players throughout the season. I think it's very important that we keep the communication flowing, and I kind of want to get their thoughts and stuff, because we don't see enough of this kind of open conversation with them in a 2-minute kind of interview on stream. So until next time, I'll see you then.